I have been hearing lots of people go on and on about gun control. Having been very liberal in the past, I can empathize with the concerns that most people have when it comes to guns. The small town I live in now is a very safe community with little violence and crime. Yet most here are still armed and well protected. However, I grew up near Dallas and avoided the big city most of the time. Not because I feared death. I simply feared no longer being alive. And the traffic. Holy cats, the freaking traffic. And all the road construction. There was a lot of violence in the Metroplex and even to some extent in the schools I went to. Gangs, for instance. My point is that the mentality is different depending on the area. There it was more tense, people really had to struggle financially, and there was a great sense of self-preservation. Hence a rise in guns over the years. There was often a pervasive air of fear for people living in the more densely populated areas. The Dallas Police Department did not help matters much from what I came to understand. Here in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, things are different. The majority of citizens are more calm, laid back, and understanding. Instead of the cold, cramped, bleak, graffiti-covered walls and buildings, we have more trees, mountains, fields, rivers, and wide open spaces. They call Pagosa Springs a one-horse town, but that is simply not the case. There are lots of horses here, as well as other animals and wildlife. Hence the rise in guns over the years. Not so much for self-preservation, since we have plenty of grocery stores. Hunters. People who own guns here generally are very responsible. They hunt if they like. Some live off the land. They take care of their guns and know how and why to use them properly. People where I live have less reason to fear and hate. So when politicians talk about gun control, naturally both sides are going to get a little miffed. Those who fear for their safety and being told that their guns or their right to own them may be taken away. The responsible gun owners are often being demonized and also feel threatened. Reasonable. Understandable for both sides. We all want to protect ourselves, our families or loved ones. In my view though, this is not spoken about or recognized enough. If you remove a person's right to protect themselves and families with a weapon, then only the criminals would have them. Criminals do not and will not ever follow the law. They have ways of finding and procuring guns and other weapons for themselves. I think this frightens people in this debate, and it should. The more important aspect of controlling this is to find the ways that criminals get these guns and shut them down. And not to talk about how dangerous guns and their owners are. Guns are not by themselves dangerous. And normally people who own guns are not dangerous. Some are. Those who seek revenge for crimes. People who are mentally disturbed and not emotionally capable of handling things without resorting to violence. People who decide to commit violent crimes like robbery, for instance. And yes, we do unfortunately have lots of accidents involving guns as well. Those are things to look into, but making sweeping generalizations about gun owners and guns themselves will not help at all. It just serves to make people more tense. I agree that there should be more background checks, especially in the psychological category. I also think that all gun owners should be required to take a brief training course in safety and use. Every mass shooting becomes an opportunity for politicians to go on wild rants about gun control, many of whom do not own them or have ever used them before. People without the mentality of fear and never having really learned anything about responsible gun owners. It is time to find a happy medium. I can appreciate the passion, but logic needs to play a much bigger part. Less heart and more genuine thought put into the process of how to keep weapons out of the hands of criminals and those who are a real potential threat. Words are weapons as well. And for politicians and presidents, all the world is a stage.